Oh, just a couple minutes late, trying to pull things together, but do appreciate you being here, the voice of college football. We'll get our act together and we'll talk week 3 and week 4, of course, straight ahead. I've been looking at the matchups and I am stoked for a big week 4 across the nation. Tons of huge matchups. Leave the comments and questions there in the chat. The call-in line's there as well. We're going to start off by talking some West Virginia football. We got one of our favorites, especially to talk the Mountaineers. We got Mountaineer Paul here. You can catch him on Locked On at West Virginia. Paul, how you doing today?
Doing good, Mark. I'm really glad to be back on the show, man. I was telling you off camera, you looking good with the beard.
Liking the beard. All right.
Liking the beard, man.
Take some kind of poll. It's getting mighty itchy. I don't know. But, we'll keep it going. We will keep it going. Have you ever grown a beard?
Yeah. I can only grow like up to here though, because I have that baby face thing going on where I just don't grow it up here.
You do have a baby face, no doubt about it. But you've been around the block a little bit here, and certainly you've seen some West Virginia football in your day. And what you saw on Saturday had to feel real good.
It felt really good. It's it's like Rich Rod said in the press conference jokingly, but it really is for us. It counts for more than one on this one because it's more than just a rivalry win like any other year. This is 18 years of 13-9, 13-9, 13-9. You know, they knocked us out of the national championship game. That's like the ultimate thing you can hold over your rival. And it's, obviously Rich left and went wayward for a little while. And I think it's the culmination of all that stuff coming together for one night, one moment. His family was there. He got a standing ovation in the press conference. Like, it was very emotional to see him like that post game, right as the clock ticked to 0 with ESPN's as emotional as he was, crying and everything, lets you know how much that monkey weighed in on his back, Mark. It was very heavy. I mean, you could tell that this win meant a lot for the program and maybe already a larger signature win in year one than Neil Brown had in 6 years, unfortunately.
So, game went to overtime, folks. So West Virginia was, depending on your line, just roughly a touchdown, 7.5-point dog for most of the week. So certainly Vegas was expecting Pitt to come home with a victory. Before we get to the nuts and bolts of the game and what it might mean going forward to Kansas, one of it can cause you to pull your hair out on one hand, but it can also ultimately, when you see success, make it even sweeter because the ride is not going to be straight up.
No,
the ride is not going to be straight up. So what we saw was obviously an uneven performance the first week. They get the win, Robert Morris, everybody assumes that. And then they take a trip to Athens, Ohio, and Iowa State did the same thing a couple of years ago, and they had a pretty good football team, and they lost by a field goal to Ohio. And we saw them come with
around for 3 quarters.
They took Rutgers to the wire. They played Ohio State tough in Columbus just last week. So not a bad Ohio University team, but most people would think, okay, West Virginia should win that game. But again, building a program, and these are kind of so I'm not going to say that you want to lose that game and then it makes the next week sweeter to beat Pitt. But again, the ride isn't going to be in a straight direction. It's going to be, a couple steps forward, then you take a few steps back and you kind of, it's Rich Rod kind of patchworking a team together at this point.
Yep, it is. And you got to think about like 81 new players. That's second in the country, number 1 in Power 4. Southern Miss, the only team that brought in more players with Coach Hupp. So that is an incredibly large amount of players to bring in. No team that's winning in this era of college football is bringing that type of players in, those amount of players in. You don't see any of the top teams. Ohio State didn't do that. Texas isn't doing that. Notre Dame's not doing that. They're bringing in 10, 14, maybe 15 guys outside of their freshman class, and they're piecing things in. Obviously, Rich Rod started with 0 almost and had to, evaluate a lot of different players. They've hit on some. They've missed on others. But, man, they've hit in some really nice areas, especially along the defensive part of the football team, which is even with the Ohio game considered playing extremely well up until right now.
Yeah. So what's going on with this quarterback situation? So everybody got to see pretty much your quarterback room on Saturday,
Yeah,
and between the guy that most of us are most familiar with, Nico Markiel, who
right.
overall played the best, and then you bring in this kid Fox, who hit for one huge play but made some costly mistakes, obviously,
Yeah.
and you kind of ran it around the circuit there. So where does this quarterback situation stand right now?
Yeah, and there's still one more guy that I actually really like. You will probably remember. Unfortunately, hasn't seen the field yet either. In Max Brown, who started in Florida and has played for them, has an elite arm. Honestly, I'm surprised we haven't seen him yet because of how good of a passer he is. My only guess is he had 6 picks in 93 snaps at Charlotte last year. And so it's not that he's not a great passer, it's just not a great decision maker, at least is my best guess. But I don't have the feelers on his specific situation, so I don't know. The other guys, we expected Jalen Henderson to play a bigger role so far, to be honest. He was really good at Texas A&M, before he was injured in the Cure Bowl versus Oklahoma State. He's a very good runner. He's not quite Pat White, obviously, but I mean, he is a much quicker version of, Nico Markiel for sure. And I think he's a guy that, if he had any accuracy at all right now in this offense, would probably have a really good chance to be the quarterback. Unfortunately, he's not. And I think it's not that he's not accurate, because we go back and watch Texas A&M and he really can throw it when he's competent. But unfortunately, in this new offense, just doesn't seem to be working yet. And teams are keying on his running abilities whenever he does pull it. And the thing that kind of sucks about this is when Nico Marchiol pulls it, nobody's worried because he's not fast enough to get around the edge, or they're just keying on the running back because they realize he's not much of a threat. Nico's one of those guys that can run. He actually runs about a 4.6, but he has no acceleration. He just can't get there fast. And that matters, especially in this kind of offense.
Got a Mountaineer Paul here breaking down the Mountaineers for us. And of course, it was the backyard brawl as the first significant win for Rich Rod at West Virginia in his return. And the Mountaineers at 2-1 go to Kansas. Should be a pretty good ball game and a definite measuring stick. Getting into Big 12 play. This running back, Ty Alexander, can you tell us something about him? He had a huge day against Pitt.
Yeah, Ty Edwards is a guy that.
Ty Edwards. I'm sorry.
No worries. I mean, there's a lot of new players, but Ty Edwards out of Northern Iowa he had over 1,000 yards for them last year. And I turned on his tape, Mark. I kid you not, studying him in the offseason. And I told my friend, I said, we've got something here. This guy, he pops on tape. Some guys just pop. I wasn't sure how quickly he would acclimate to Rich Rod's system, because being in shape is extremely important in this system. And he's 6'2", 225. We saw him get gassed a little bit in the game the other day. But he's, like I said, 6'2", 225. He really runs behind its pads. He touches 21 miles an hour on the gun when he's really rolling. So, and he's got a unique blend of size and some burst. And he's also got some wiggle to his game. I called him the other day a poor man's Ollie Gordon. He's got that similarity to his game, where Ollie had a little bit of shake and bake, even though he was 6'2", 6'3", 230 pounds. So he's a really good player. And, there's a reason Phil Steele had us ranked the number one running back room in the Big 12 preseason. We've got another player by the name of Sincere Bowers that runs a 4.3 40 that I am hugely, hugely big on, which is a weird way to say hugely big, but I'm really big on Sincere Bowers. He's a really good player that's just not quite caught on yet. He had a touchdown in the opening game, 38 yards, but that's all he's done so far. But yeah, Ty Edwards is a really big piece of this offense going forward, and we're probably going to need to ride him.
We appreciate Mountaineer Paul being here to break down some West Virginia football. Of course, the backyard brawl is in their back pocket with an overtime win against Pitt. That was quite a ball game. And they move ahead to Kansas to get into Big 12 play. And we all know what is both a perception of the Big 12, but also we would all be shocked if it wasn't reality that almost everybody can beat almost everybody in the Big 12. There might be a severe high. Well, I don't know where the high end is. We'll find out if there is a high end. There, the couple at the bottom may be easy to predict, but other
Yeah.
than that, who knows?
Who
So
knows?
West Virginia certainly was not being talked about from anybody. I do remember 2 years ago, I think the media picked West Virginia last in the Big 12, and they went 9-4.
Right.
And then they didn't feel too kindly about Arizona State last year. So the media is like, 2 for 2 here. But we know what the Big 12 is. You throw out games, and I got an idea who's better. But I'm not real convinced of it. That's for sure. And
Yeah.
so when you look at this West Virginia football team, now that you've seen them for 3 games and you saw them now against a Pitt team that should be they might have a chance, upper level ACC.
Right.
Where do you think that Rich Rod is going to have to do his best work to kind of maybe hide some warts? But where do you think that they might have an opportunity to maybe pull off a few surprises?
Yeah, the offensive line, unfortunately, is still patchwork. It's if you look across the line on the PFF grades, they haven't been good. We've got a couple guys hanging around average, right around 65, in a couple games this year. But for the most part, we see a lot of 50s, a lot of low 60s, which isn't the be all end all. Obviously, the eye test matters too. But certainly there are struggles there, which is why Ty Edwards came into play last week, because he was breaking tackles at the line of scrimmage to press on up into the secondary. So that's a big deal, obviously. Rich Rod is very creative in his schemes as far as whether you need to get on the perimeter or maybe you've got a matchup inside this week, what have you. He always prioritizes really athletic offensive linemen. So, he's capable of running any scheme, whether that be zone, gap, whatever you need to do. So he can do a little bit of all of it. And of course, there's always the extensions of the run game that you can mix in there as well, which is screen passes and what have you. So there's a lot you can do with that. I think strengths on the football team, Mark, wide receiver is a very strong position on the team. Cam Vaughn, in my opinion, is probably one of the best wide receivers in the Big 12. Unfortunately, his quarterback situation is not helping him at the moment. Grayson Barnes at tight end really came through late last week, and we loved him coming out of Northern Illinois. He's a 6'5", 230-pound kid that is a 4'6" guy that can really run around. We love him. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I think that's where we're our strongest. You bring in Zach Alley, you give him almost $2 million to come in here. And he's good because Brent Venables, which is one of the greatest defensive coordinators ever, said, I want him to call my plays. And he really is good. Oklahoma jumped up several spots in all the rankings last year, and he was there on defense, even though they only won 6 games. And West Virginia has seen similar results in only 1 year, tied for first in sacks. We had 6 last week, 2 against Ohio, 4 against Robert Morris. And now we're adding Jamori Robinson, the defensive player of the year in the American Conference last year, who had 11 sacks, 50 quarterback pressures, and 17 tackles for loss to this already good pass rush. So I think there are things that we have that we can be good. I think our defense is going to keep us in almost every game.
Talking West Virginia football, we got Mountaineer Paul here breaking down WVU. And of course, you can catch Paul's work every day at Locked On Mountaineers. You got the Twitter/X handle for Paul. And if there's any other aspect of this you want to highlight, Paul, in regards to how people can find you and when you post, just let the good people know.
Yeah, it's Locked On West Virginia. I totally understand why you would think Locked On Mountaineers. I probably they gave me the choice. I probably should have picked Locked On Mountaineers. Maybe that's catchier. But I was thinking through an SEO mindset whenever I did that, Mark, and typing West Virginia in,
Sure.
see more. But anyways, on X at Paul Mountaineer, I do a lot of work there. And then I also have a Discord server, which if you come and join the show, we've got close to 1,000 people in there now. So if you'd like to be a part of that community, I'm hardly ever even in there anymore. I come in there and give updates. That's pretty much a life of its own in there now. And they talk all types of ball. There's basketball, there's football. So there's really a lot to do in there if you're a big college football or basketball fan.
What what kind of shot do you give your boys in Lawrence?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a tough game for us to win, Mark. To be totally honest, I don't know why the spread's as big as it is. I thought maybe 9, only because we're coming off this emotional win in overtime. Kansas is coming off a bye week, and Lance Leopold is a really good football coach. Think about how many good coaches have tried to turn Kansas around. And I mean, you can go down the line, right? So I have a lot of respect for him. I think they're doing a lot of the similar concepts to Andy Kotelnicki with all the motion and things that they do, and it's been successful. One thing to point to in this game was they really struggled with Missouri's defensive front. And West Virginia has a similar defensive front. As a matter of fact, they got one of Missouri's starters from last year on their defensive front, and Eddie Kelly Jr. Can Kansas hold up against this really good West Virginia pass rush? Adding a guy that had 11 sacks last year with a third-round grade. It's surprising they didn't go to the NFL, but he chose to, stay for, I think it's his 6th year. But, he's a grown man out there, 6'5", 240 pounds. We're going to see what he's all about. But I think I still favor Kansas in this game. If you're going to make me pick it right now early in the week, I'll probably get, say Kansas wins 30-27 or something like that.
Mountaineer Paul, you can catch him on Lockdown West Virginia every day, posting West Virginia football content right there. Paul, we appreciate you stopping by, man. Good luck this weekend.
No problem, Mark. Thanks for having me as always, brother.
Good stuff from Mountaineer Paul. And again, we wanted to get a take on West Virginia football with the big win in the Backyard Brawl. It's a game that I always love to watch and did again on Saturday, even though I don't think either team is really any kind of conference contender or anything. But if you love college football, that's one of those games. That is one of those games. And I've said this many times, and Paul's possibly heard me say it. I don't know that there is a program across the nation historically that is more underrated than West Virginia in regards to matching the accomplishments with what people's perception is of the program all time. We're talking about a program that is top 15 all time in wins. And if you start to peel back the bowl games and the rankings, it's pretty impressive what West Virginia's done on through the years, mostly under the direction of Don Nehlen, of course, and did have a shot to win the 1988 National Championship. Notre Dame, Tony Rice, Lou Holtz, and company, of course, won that game. All right. We go to your calls. And before we do, you can get my picks. You can stay right here on YouTube and just subscribe to the premium tier. Get my picks that way, or go to Patreon. Either way, patreon.com/MarkRogersTV, and you can get my picks there. So you get my picks. I pick about 20 to 25 games per week. And then you get the under the radar selection from Steve Merrill. He is 2-1 this year. He is 30-13 in his under the radar picks against the spread. Then you get Steve Dace, you get Corey Brada, you get Matt Zemek's 12-pack picks. So you get 12 picks from those guys. That's 36 picks. You get like 25 picks from me each week. And then Steve Merrill with his under-the-radar selection. He's the pro. But for just being an amateur that just closes my eyes and just throws darts, and has been for 40-plus years, go find 37-21 somewhere. You might find somebody that's like 7-3 against the spread. That means they're taking the games that they are the most confident in each week. And maybe that I should do that. I did that for about 3 to 4 years. I separated some confidence picks, and I was close to 70% against the spread confidence picks. But I just run through all of them. 37-21 against the spread, 61-15 against the money line. All right. Patreon, YouTube. You can catch the audio from all these shows as well on your favorite audio platform. Just look up Voice of College Football, whether you're on Apple or Amazon or Spotify or any of those. Just look up Voice of College Football, and you get the audio from all the channels, and this one included. All right, let's get to our first call. We got Hunter on the line. Hunter, how you doing?
Hey Mark, how you doing?
I'm good. What's going on?
Nothing much. Just looking forward to the this weekend's game, even though Bama's not playing. Um, I think there's some good matchups. I think one of the ones that I'm looking forward to um, the most is the Nebraska and Michigan game. Um, I picked. Now I want Nebraska to win because I picked the over on their season total. So I bet on their season total
Which was what?
to go over 7 wins.
7. Yeah, I'm with you.
And so I think if they win this game, I think they that's even a more likely possibility that they win 8 games at least.
Yeah, that's what the math is, Hunter. Yes, it is.
Mhm.
It is a higher possibility that they will hit the win total if they win on Saturday. Yeah, I've got them. At least in the preseason predictions, I forecasted that they would lose to Michigan, but still go 8-4.
Mm. Yeah, I think that this game is very winnable for them. I think they're in a good position to possibly pull up an upset against Michigan.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree with that. I just don't think they will, but would not surprise me. I think they're only a 3-point underdog.
Yeah, when I looked at it earlier, it was down to two. It was down to 2.5.
Yeah.
So I guess a lot of money has come on. Um, maybe Michigan, but um,
Well, it's coming in on Nebraska.
yeah, or rather, Nebraska. Another thing I've seen the other night, you went on stream, after the events that took place last week, and got on there and was, praying and stuff like that. I respect you for that for doing that because not a lot of people with your platform would be as bold as you are in doing that. So I'm a believer as well. So um, when I see people that are doing things like that on a platform like you have, um, it's really admirable of you to do that and to not be afraid.
I appreciate that, Hunter. That's very nice of you to say. And I just felt that regardless of the topic, regardless of our subject matter here, is obviously college football, and we have produced one of my defenses for that is I would almost bet that we produced more videos and live streams than anybody on YouTube. I would love to see that count. I know that YouTube's telling me we've done 14,000 videos here. So we have delivered plenty of college football that in an event like that historic and that tragic, that I just felt moved and felt like that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I mean, in the wake of those events, I think it's good for us to take to take a step back and a pause and I mean, sports is great and it's a good distraction from all that, but at the same time, when you have something that major go down, that tragic, and it just sweeps the nation, we kind of have to sit back in time and reflect. And it's just the day that and and it's sad that in the day that we're living in, that there's so many people that would have your type of a platform would be scared to do what you did, and because the fear of getting canceled and all that. So uh I've always respected you, in your line of work on here, but man, you gain a whole nother level of respect from me, from for doing that and being that bold of doing that. So
I
I
appreciate
just I just wanted to tell you that because I thought that was really really good of you
I did
to
lose
do that.
about 40 subscribers.
Well, I mean, what's 40 in the grand scheme of
Yeah,
things?
it's yeah. I say that laughingly because it doesn't matter. No, it doesn't. But I just noticed that because if you're in YouTube and you're doing anything right, like your subscribers never go down. Like my subscribers have never like I'm never losing more than I'm gaining. So I just noticed that, boom, as soon as that happened, boom, I noticed the next day I got 40 less subscribers.
Right.
But
So
that's
back to college football.
Yep.
What do you think? I mean, I'm not going to actually give your pick or anything like that, but just as a, have you seen enough from Alabama since that loss against Florida State that they can pull an upset against Georgia at Georgia? I'm going to say that that's going to be a very hard game for us to win, but if Ty Simpson can play as confident as he played in the last two games,
yeah.
I think it's very possible we could upset him.
He looked really good against Wisconsin. I did not see one play of the previous game, as you can imagine. But I watched the Wisconsin game, and my goodness, he was in a flow. He was in a rhythm. And Wisconsin is not a bad defensive team. Now, Alabama's wide receivers were way too much for them to handle from a speed and athleticism standpoint in the secondary, but Wisconsin's got a pretty tough defense. I knew that they wouldn't be able to score on Alabama. But yeah, I was impressed with Ty Simpson. I was impressed with his ball placement and him just throwing in rhythm and making quick and the right decisions and all of that. And then consider that Georgia, and I think that this was more an indicator of Joey Aguilar's inconsistency than it was Georgia playing hot and cold in the secondary, because he hit on some enormous plays, but he also would go cold in that game. And if Georgia's defense doesn't get its act together, Ty Simpson could have a good day against them too.
Right. I don't know if you noticed the play where he threw one to Latzir Brooks, and it was literally, I said, I looked at my dad, and I was like, he just threw a laser. I mean, he just threw just a perfect, literally the perfect pass, for that play. And he went through his progressions, and that's another thing that I noticed was in this game is he against Wisconsin. He's going through his progressions and making his reads and not just going to the first guy who he was supposed maybe designed that play might have been designed for to go to. And so that shows a level of maturity. And this lines up with a lot of things we were hearing in the off season. And I think that he just maybe got in that environment at Florida State. And I've been to Florida State games. That's a hard place to play when they pack the house like they did against us. And then I just think he got in that game and just kind of got stage frightened a little bit and got disoriented a little bit. And I think that possibly could have what happened. Now we got to go to Georgia on the road, but he's got to have to show that he can play in that type of environment. That's the thing that I always admired about Jalen Hurts when he played at Alabama was when he would make a bad play, he didn't let him affect him. And so I'm hoping that he will have that sort of a poise going into there. Well, maybe a play don't go exactly the way he wants it to, that he don't let that get in his head.
The other component there in terms of Alabama's play at Florida State and Ty Simpson in particular could be where when you see a great quarterback, and I think more of this happening in the NFL, because obviously in college you can only be so great because you're only around for 2 or 3 years. But some of these great all-time quarterbacks that have been around forever, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, those kind of guys, that the team their presence, their leadership, just the supreme confidence you see in these documentaries when they talk about, playing with a Terry Bradshaw or a Roger Staubach or a Joe Montana, the team just never gives up hope. They just always believe, and they raise their elevation of play. Level of play is raised by just the sheer presence of that kind of greatness. Well, it might kind of flip in the opposite direction when Ty Simpson sees his team not playing well around him early in the Florida State game. instead of, maybe him not, and I'm not blaming him, but him not having that kind of capacity yet, that kind of aura around him, and that kind of respect. And I'm sure his teammates respect him, but not to that degree where he's not going to flip that and raise their level of play. Actually, they may lower his level of play.
Right. And another thing that I noticed in this game was that Kalen DeBoer. Now, this is a better question for you because I didn't pay attention to a whole lot of Kalen DeBoer when he was at Washington. But has it always been his kind of MO not to raise his voice that much? Because he seemed way too, like, he didn't, like, get on anybody really during the Florida State game. But this game, he was chewing some players out, and he was showing that emotion. So I don't know if that's not he's kind of, his personality doesn't lend to being like that, or what. I didn't know much about him when he was at Washington. I didn't watch him that much on the sideline, so I didn't know that was abnormal of him.
I can't say that Kalen DeBoer's demeanor has really stood out to me one way or the other, but I can't think of ever seeing him rant or rave or get emotional, super excited or angry or in a player's face or anything like that. I don't recall him acting like that at Washington.
Well, I did see that he did that a couple times in this game against Wisconsin, and I think that I mean, maybe I'm just kind of old school when it comes to stuff like this, but I feel like that players need to see their coach with that emotion, and and with that, because if not necessarily maybe yelling at them, but maybe just showing that emotion. Now, when he gets mad at referees, he'll yell and scream. I've seen him, you know, get really irate on the sidelines, on the other refs, but he just hadn't done that a lot with the players. So I just didn't know if that was just not his personality. And we're so used to Nick Saban, who would chew a player out in a heartbeat. And then you go from that to seeing, then you have fans going, well, Kalen doesn't really care about this team. He's not showing any emotion, And so people are temperamentally different. And so I just think that maybe his temperament is just not that way.
Well, I would think that it's similar to parenting, that that you want to show that you care. So in this case, not that he cares about the game, that he cares about his players, that he cares about being excellent, that his standard is excellence and he won't put up with anything less. But obviously, if you take that to extreme, if you're ranting and raving all the time, then players start to tune it out just because they think, well, he's lost it and this is ridiculous and he's always like this, so it really doesn't mean anything. So I would think that it would be most effective to save that for the right times.
Right. And I do like seeing that emotion, from coaches, especially the head coach. But I was glad to see that some emotion on his part during this last game. And it's funny how fans work. We during after that Florida State games, everybody was ready to fire Kalen DeBoer and all this, and then now the same people I see on my timeline are praising him, saying how good we played on against Wisconsin. And I'm just like, okay, there's no consistency there. I never was like that. I never said, oh, I'm ready to get rid of him. I just said, we had a bad game. Let's give him time to fix it. And granted, it was Louisiana Monroe and Wisconsin that we played against, but and shout out to Wisconsin's run defense. They played really good run defense. I mean, I think they were committed not to let us run and make Ty Simpson throw the ball. I think that was their game plan. And you know, you know, and another guy like at Alabama that's really surprised me this year is Kevin Riley. I mean, we didn't really talk about him in the offseason that much. And then he just comes on and as one of these guys that just kind of popped up on everybody's radar and just started, playing really well. So, And he picked up some blocks this game against Wisconsin that were really impressive for, somebody, for a player that young to be able to have the um the ability to, to pick up blocks, and stuff like that maybe a younger player is not as good at. And so it'd be good to have Jam Miller back, against Georgia. I think that's gonna help, especially in pass protection. But um, you know, we'll see how this goes. But I'm looking forward to this weekend. With the games, like I said, I think the big ones on my radar is that Nebraska game, but there's a couple other games that are uh, pretty good games this weekend. So it should be an exciting week um of college football.
I believe so. All right, Hunter. Appreciate you being here.
Appreciate it, man. Thank
Have
you.
a good night. Good to hear from Hunter. He's been calling us for a long, long time. I think Hunter goes back to the days when I used to hold the phone in front of the microphone. That's what I used to do. All right, let's answer some of these questions. We especially have MCATs here. I guess MCATs has been asking this for 5 consecutive days. Well, I'm sorry, MCATs. I do answer all the super chats. Obviously, those pop up, and I'm obligated to, and they catch my attention to answer all of those. But I cannot guarantee that I'm going to answer every question or respond to every comment in the chat. But 5 consecutive days, I guess if you're telling the truth, MCATs. But MCATs is so supportive, always has my back, always complimentary, always encouraging. So day 5 of me asking, who is the most underrated and overrated team? I always struggle with these underrated and overrated questions. This is why I struggle with these questions. According to who? I don't know who's doing the rating. Like, should I go to the AP rankings and pull them up and say who's too high and who's too low? Well, I can tell you without even looking at them, and I've not looked at the AP rankings all season. See, I've got to be careful here. Penn State's got to be ranked too high. They haven't beaten anyone. They haven't done anything. Zero. Nothing. They've done nothing of significance. They shouldn't even necessarily be ranked, period. If you're truly ranking based on merit, if you're ranking based on perception, then rank them wherever you want to. They might be the best team in the country. Who knows? But they're just playing high school teams at this point. So if you're looking at rankings, I guarantee Penn State's overranked. They're ranked too high, but are they overrated? I don't know. They have yet to play anybody. I don't think they're overrated. I think they are one of the best teams in the country. Who's underrated? Well, I'm sure Vanderbilt's underrated. Who knows where they're ranked right now? Again, I don't know. And somebody else asked me in the chat about my top 25 that actually makes sense. Boy, I'm embarrassed about this. It's usually out on Sunday. It's Tuesday night late. And it's going to take something for me to record that after this show. But we'll try to get it out first thing on Wednesday. And I understand nobody's going to watch it at this point because rankings have been out since Sunday. And hardly 1,000 people watched it last week. So maybe we'll put that to bed at some point. But, we used to get a lot of views on our top 25 that actually makes sense. But, yeah, I dropped the ball over and over and over. And I got to admit, I kind of forgot about them. Yeah, so I know that I'm not responding well to your overrated and underrated, but I don't know who's doing the rating. I guess I would have to listen to people and get their evaluation of these teams and then say, okay, they're overrated, they're underrated. Let's see what the top 25 is, by the way. This horrendous top 25. We had our guy Dominic call during the Big Ten Live show touting the AP rankings. And I think I got it across to Dominic how pathetic they are. How pathetic the rankings are. All right. So here you go. We've got, yeah, whatever that is. Okay. Ohio State's number one. Well, they beat the previous number one. I guess they're number one or somewhere in the top five. So everybody in that top five has done something except Penn State. So as a voter, you can go into this thinking, okay, this is my preseason ranking, and Penn State has done nothing negative to counter this or cause me to drop them. Therefore, I'm just going to keep them where I believe that they should be, number 2 in the country. I guess that's fine. That's not how I rank. I would like teams to be able to earn their ranking. Penn State has not earned that ranking by any stretch. Oregon has been dominant. They somehow lost 2 pole positions. I guess that's because Miami passed them. And so did Georgia. Okay. Oregon has not played anyone, but at least they scheduled Oklahoma State, and they have just pasted teams. Florida State's got obviously the big win against Bama. Texas, Illinois. Illinois beat Duke. Okay, look, here's case in point. Case in point. This will outline my point perfectly. Look at Illinois. Illinois, I believe, started the season number 12 in the rankings. If Illinois was exactly the same football team and performed exactly as they have against nobody, Duke and nobody, but they started the season unranked, if Illinois started the season unranked and did exactly every play was exactly what it's been through 3 games, what would Illinois be ranked right now? They might not even be ranked. They might be 23, 24, 25. Is that right? It's kind of stupid. It is stupid. Got Texas A&M at 10. So this is where you've got to reward the wins. Because if you watch Texas A&M and Notre Dame play, well, it was virtually a tie. Now, it was at Notre Dame. And Notre Dame, on top of that, went to the number, 4 team in the country and lost on a walk-off field goal. But Texas A&M won the game. Holding a snap for a PAT is part of playing football, part of the team. So you got to be able to do that. Oklahoma, Iowa State, Ole Miss, okay. Alabama, Tennessee. Tennessee State at 15. Okay, that's reasonable. They kind of outplayed Georgia. Tennessee blew that when they had a 38-30. No, I'm sorry. They had a 35-30 lead, and they played for the field goal instead of a 2-score lead. They could have really put Georgia behind the 8 ball. Utah has played no one. Texas Tech has played no one. Georgia Tech should be ranked ahead of Utah and Texas Tech. Indiana ranked too high. Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt has defeated South Carolina on the road by 24 points and Virginia Tech on the road by 24 points. And they're ranked behind Indiana. Auburn beat Baylor. They should be ranked ahead of Michigan. Auburn should be ranked. Can you imagine a universe in which Indiana and Auburn are both 3-0 and Auburn actually beat a ranked team and they're ranked behind Indiana? We can't say anymore, apparently, that Indiana doesn't get any respect. Missouri beat a decent Kansas team. And there is Notre Dame at 0-2. They dropped 16 spots by losing to Texas A&M. Okay, that seems a bit severe. And USC's at 25. All right, folks. Comments and questions? Let me rip through the chat here, see what you got. And I will be here for as long as you would like me to be here. So that is up to all of you. All right. Let me get back here. Never Mind Me is here. Steve's here. Fongwei's here. Good to see Aunt Who. Couldn't find the top 25. That actually makes sense. My apologies. Charles Todd Sullivan for president says Napier still employed, but the Florida running back coach suspended 3 games due to fracas before the LSU game. Okay. R.L. Smith says the guy in the Big Ten show supporting Indiana football was really obnoxious. It's our buddy Allie Keyser. Aunt Who, thanks for your amazing tribute to Charlie Kirk this week. Well, thank you for recognizing that. I appreciate your encouragement. Karen's here. Moose. John DiAdamo. Speaking of Rich Rod, of course, we talk West Virginia football. John was just starting at the University of Michigan. Fongwei's here. Charles is here. Ryan, good evening to you. John. Cano. Virginia Tech has not found a new head coach yet. Powcar, good to see you. Bama fan, Roll Tide, gotcha. We've got Moose. Let's see. Thought I saw some other comments and questions. Thank you for that, William. Trojan Fight, good to see you. Moose, thank you so much for keeping everybody informed and all the promotions flowing here at the Voice of College Football. VOCFB.com. VOCFB.com. You see the shop icon at the top of the site, and then you got to drop down, and you can select merchandise from just about all of your favorite teams. VOCFB.com. And Disputed National Champions is the book. I have not promoted this in quite some time, and I do know that it's football season. But you can read about the 1990s right here, the transformative period of college football championship play. It's not just a history book. We take each one of these seasons, we break it down, we tell you who got screwed, who got left out, what were the key factors in the season, the turning points, all of it. But we take each one of these seasons and we let you know how this season would have looked placed ahead in the BCS era, the 4-team playoff era, the 12-team playoff era, a proposed 14 or 16 playoff era. And then we also let you know, okay, let's say it's 1991. Who would have played in the Big Ten championship game in 1991? We did not have a Big Ten championship game. We did not have any conference championship games in 1991. But who, in fact, would have played in the 1991 Big Ten championship game? Since nobody's calling and nobody's got any comments or questions, maybe we'll make this story time. 1991. All-time powers don't collide. The 1990 Miami Hurricanes did not win the national title. However, that team made the most dominant statement of the season in grandiose style in a 46-3 demolition of Texas in the Cotton Bowl. The Canes brought a physical fire and fury to the Horns, humiliating Texas by disregarding the rule book and stomping all over the Southwest Conference turf before riding off into the sunset. In 1991, Miami looked to make its dominance official. In quieter fashion out west, the Washington Huskies capped off their 1990 season with a 46-34 Rose Bowl win over Iowa. Led by a host of future NFL players, including quarterback Billy Joe Hobart and overall number 1 draft selection Steve Emtman, the Huskies were also primed for a dominant season. The 91 campaign launched the same week as my broadcasting career. Oh, we don't need to get into that. Let's skip that, get to the football. During the season, so we had a preseason top 5 in 1991 of Florida State 1, Michigan 2, Miami 3, Washington 4, and Florida 5. Penn State and Boston College challenged the Canes before Miami escaped with 1-score wins. As became customary during that era, the season came down to a 1-2 showdown versus Florida State. In the first of the famed missed kicks that marked the series, Greg Thomas missed a 34-yard field goal with 29 seconds left in what has become known as wide right 1. Washington flexed its muscles in a week 2 win at number 9 Nebraska 36-21. The Huskies were only challenged by number 7 Cal 24-17 en route to a Pac-10 title and undefeated season. A slew of one-loss teams, including Florida, Michigan, Iowa, Alabama, Texas A&M, Nebraska, Clemson, and East Carolina, waited for Miami or Washington to stumble, but the Canes and the Huskies never let up. For the 8th time in 9 seasons, the chief combatants for the national championship would be sent to separate bowl venues. Imagine an era, folks, if you weren't around for this. 8 times in 9 seasons, the top 2 teams in the country did not play each other. This time, the Pac-10 agreement with the Rose Bowl sent Washington to Pasadena. Miami accepted an invitation to the Orange Bowl to face number 11 Nebraska, 9-1-1. Entering bowl play, Miami owned the AP vote, 37-23. The Canes also led the coaches poll in number 1 votes, 30-29. But were voted down the ranks by enough coaches to place number 2 to Washington's top-ranked position overall. And I could go on and on and on. I was looking for who would have played in the 1991 Big Ten championship game. If there was a Big Ten championship game in 1991, it would have been Michigan 10-1, Iowa 10-1-1. The SEC championship game in 1991 would have been Florida 10-1, Alabama 10-1. The ACC would have been Clemson 9-1-1 against NC State 9-2. The Big East championship game in 1991, Miami 11-0 against Syracuse 9-2. The Big 8 championship, Nebraska 9-1-1 against Colorado 8-2-1. The Pac-10 championship would have been Washington 10-1 against either Cal, UCLA, or Stanford because there was a 3-way tie. And then the Southwest Conference Championship game, if there was one in 1991, would have been Texas A&M against Baylor. I don't know. And then I actually also take the current conference structure and plug in based in 1991 who would have played in those conference championship games, meaning based on 2024, who would have played in the Big Ten champion? Who would have played in these championship games? Conference title games under current alignment. Well, let's see. Oh, that's in 1990. In 91, you would have had Washington against Michigan. Instead of playing in the Rose Bowl, they would have played in the Big Ten championship game. And so forth and so on. So again, folks, it is Disputed National Champions. Just go to Amazon, look up Disputed National Champions, or the link is down in the description section. All right. I believe we might have a call coming in. We shall see. I heard that pop noise. Ryan liked the conference setup in years gone by. Yes, it worked much better. Let me try to take this call. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, what's up, Mark?
Hey, what's going on?
Yeah, it's a Hall of Fame trade from the other day. How you been doing today?
Tremendous.
Right
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm all right. I know last time we talked about Florida and all that kind of stuff. Before we talk about other games, I want to say Florida is the most disgraceful team in 2025. The most very disgraceful. No effort. The play calling is horrendous. DJ Lagway, 5 interceptions. 5. I don't think you can even win a junior varsity game, varsity game, college game, much less an NFL game with 5 interceptions. 5. And even though we threw 4, we're still in it. And then we threw a 5th one, and that's not enough. Why is DJ? I'm not batting this crap of Rust crap anymore, Mark. It's not about Rust. I think it showed how bad he is. And he's bad. I think he just one of them players, you can just pop in when the house of cards is starting to fall down and you're losing out options. You put DJ Lagway in, he'll surprise you. But since he got a starter, look, he's deer in the headlights. You don't know what's going on. Billy's not helping him with the play calling. And our defense is helping us out, but the defense can do only so much.
Well, I can't disagree with too much of that, although I will say that DJ was, of course, hot last season.
Yeah.
Finished strong, threw the deep ball well, was, as a freshman, surprisingly, I think he had the best deep ball accuracy in college football last year, which is tough to do. But we might have a few things working here. One would be that SEC defensive coordinators and South Florida's defensive coordinator watched a lot of film during the offseason and figured him out, knew that there were ways to confuse him. And certainly he looked utterly confused against LSU. But I hate to give up on the guy. I don't think you should give up on him. But he certainly didn't have it the other night. And again, I think it was more so him throwing just into coverages that fooled him than he was throwing bad passes.
I think you got to give up on him, Mark, because my gosh, and also it's not all of his fault. I think it got to be Billy's too. The lack of preparation is just really bad. And I don't think I ever seen a coaching staff so underprepared every week. Every week of the last 4 years, it's like no one knows how to prepare. And the only time they won last year is when DJ miraculously inspired a team and a lot of fire under him, and good things happen. You would expect, you know, he's already on the hot seat more than last year, and you would think you'd be very prepared. It looked like nothing has been improving like the last 3 years. They do the same shit. And don't you think he's gonna be the next one after Brent Pry? And my God, it took a big blowout to hold Dominion to get him fired. UCLA, he was about to get fired anyway, because he was that bad in the last year. Well, you think Bill Napier will be next?
Well, Florida's got higher standards than those two places, that's for sure. There's no doubt that Billy Napier needs to perform. So he's been there longer than Brent Pry at Virginia. Well, they came in about the same time, but Deshaun Foster only got 1 season plus 3 games.
But he was so bad, though, Mark. UCLA was never a factor in anything.
Sure.
I don't think UCLA was very serious about, football anyway.
No.
I don't think.
They're not.
I'm surprised Virginia Tech let Brent Pry, carry on as much as he did. I mean, it's like Florida, Virginia Tech, all these historic schools that had some history in the 90s and 2000s and made that, bowl run for 20-something years.
Yep.
It looked like it never happened. With these two bums, was running their head coaches. Now we got one bum left. What does it got to take for him to get out?
Billy Napier?
Yeah.
I got to think that 8-4 is going to keep his job. Something in the 8-4 range against that schedule, because it is arguably the toughest schedule in college football.
Yeah.
Is going to keep him around. But anything less than that, I got to think that 6-6 and he's gone 7-5. I don't know. That might, so I don't think that any coach should be fired just based on their record. Even though that's the bottom line, it's got to be taken into consideration. Like if they go 8-4 and they are super, super competitive with the best teams on their schedule, Texas, for example, and those games are going down to the wire, then that's one thing. Yeah. If they're 8-4 and they're 3 touchdowns away from Texas and 3 touchdowns away from Georgia, and they can't compete with the best teams, and you can just tell he hasn't improved this thing at all. Plus, their recruiting class coming up in December is either really good or not meeting expectations. I think those things have to be taken into consideration as well.
But isn't that like Scott Frost in Nebraska, though? They had some competitive games, and they kept going 3-9, 3-9, 3-9. Don't you think everybody get tired of that?
Well, I'm not talking about going 3-9.
Yeah,
I'm talking about going 8-4.
That's true. Let me ask you this before I want to talk about other games before I get off here. So we got pretty good games. What do you look for versus Auburn and Oklahoma? That's actually a very interesting game. No one's really talking about.
Well, we got a quarterback playing against his former team. So what does Brent Venables shoot? He was able to cook up something against Bryce Underwood in terms of difficult alignments and schemes and coverages to throw him into a 9-for-24 night. I got to think nobody knows Jackson Arnold any better than Brent Venables.
I want to be the first one. I want to be the first one to say I never wanted Brent Venables fired when everybody wanted his head for being 6-6 for 2 straight years. He knows what he's doing. Okay, and I think Brent Venables will cook up something in defense. He is a mastermind in defense.
Yes,
he is maybe better than Will Muschamp. And we had Will Muschamp as a Florida guy. And he always had good defenses, and he always been a great defensive coordinator everywhere he went, from Texas to Auburn and all that. Brent Venables is up there. Brent Venables know how to coach some defense. It didn't really show in the first 2 weeks, Mark. I don't even know if Jackson Arnold will pull the same stunts he did in the first 2 games. in the first 3 games. We're not sure if he can. Will he move around? Or will the pocket will collapse on him? Will he get a quarterback spy on him? Will he even get a chance to go to the outside? Because my God, Oklahoma got some great athletes that can close the gap real, really quickly, and we've seen that in Michigan.
Yep. Well, I appreciate the call, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You have a good one. Call back anytime.
Yes, sir.
All right, let's keep it moving because we are way over. We'll go for like 30-second rapid fire. Caden's on the line. Caden, what's going on?
Yeah, good evening, Mark. How are you?
Hey, Caden. Doing well. What's going on?
Just was insulted about 15 minutes ago, but I won't get into that any further. I'm going to make this perfectly clear.
Yes?
Alabama, Notre Dame, and Michigan are all going 8-4. And mark my words on that.
Okay, I think we've heard that before. Okay, so we'll put that away and wait till the time comes.
And that's guaranteed. Mark my words.
What does that mean, guaranteed?
I'm saying that it's going to be guaranteed.
What does that mean? You got to explain that. You guaranteed Ohio State was going to beat teams by 50 points last year that they didn't. So
this guarantee is 100% certain.
If you're going to guarantee something, there has to be some kind of ramification to it.
Michigan loses to Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, and they lose to a non-conference opponent. Notre Dame, on the other hand, loses to Arkansas and Purdue. Alabama loses to Georgia, Ole Miss, and Tennessee.
Okay.
Do I need to make myself perfectly clear, or is that clear enough for you?
You're not answering my question. We'll talk to you another night, Caden. Thanks for being here. All right. I can't take it tonight. No. So I simply asked, if you make a guarantee, let me explain something. Okay. If you buy something, let's say there's some kind of warranty, there's a guarantee. There's a guarantee, correct? That means if you purchase something, there's a guarantee connected to it. What happens if the product doesn't meet expectations? It's compromised in some way. It's broken. The manufacturer guaranteed it. Therefore, they replace it. They make it good. It's like you have no concerns, no worries, no second thoughts about it. It's guaranteed. So any fool that comes on here and guarantees that somebody's going to beat somebody else, well, your words are pointless and they are worthless and they are hollow and empty. So if you truly want to make it a guaranteed prediction, then you need to back that up. Let's say, for example, perfect example. I've got predictions. They cost the premium membership on Patreon, YouTube, and I've delivered. I would make everybody money, half for years. But let's say I said, I guarantee that this team's going to win, that team's going to win, this team's going to win, whatever. Or I guarantee this particular game. But the guarantee was included that if I get this wrong, then you get the membership and the predictions for free. That's a guarantee. That's a true guarantee. There has to be something to back up the guarantee. Otherwise, it is not a guarantee. So it's obviously, in the college football world, it has been given to me to be the keeper of accountability, to hold fools and clowns and morons accountable to their words. So if you say it's a guarantee, then you have to explain what the guarantee is. Repeating it's a guarantee 500 times doesn't make it a guarantee. It's not a guarantee unless you have a backup for the guarantee. Pitt stopping by. Pitt, what's going on?
Hi, Mark. I might have a hair of a delay because I'm out in the sticks. You got me all right?
I got you.
It's good to see you, brother, and I love the Voice Network, and I love my Big Ten brethren, but this week, we are getting down with Michigan.
All right.
And we ain't afraid. We might be a little light in the butt on the D-line, but I think we can handle it.
Yep.
And I'm talking some friendly trash. That's all I'm doing.
Yeah, that's why we're here, and that's why we love college football, and we get behind our teams and we talk some trash. Love it.
Who do you got? Who's your pick this week for the Michigan-Nebraska, Mark?
I have to honor my folks that spend their hard-earned money to get my predictions.
Give us a hint.
I am 37-21 against the spread, by the way, and 61-15. There it is. 61-15 picking ball games.
You're a smart man, brother. I know you got Nebraska.
We may. It's possible.
All right. I know you're getting late, and I don't want to hold up too long, but I want to tell Mr. Moose
Yep.
he needs to come to Lincoln and have some good food. And we're going to hug him up, and then we're going to beat his boys.
Well, I may make it to Lincoln one of these days. I would love to. That would be fun.
You should. It's a good time. There's lots of good food, and we're a good crowd.
Absolutely. I bet.
And I want to call out our brother, Terrence Crawford. He killed it this week.
Yeah.
No disrespect to Canelo. He is a sportsman, man. What a class act, man.
Okay. I have no idea what you're talking about, but
It was a boxing match, bro.
oh, okay. All right.
Anyway, that's all I got. I know you're late. I was good talking to you, buddy.
Thanks for stopping by, man. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Last time I watched a boxing match might have been like the Mike Tyson era. When he was knocking people out in like 8 seconds. I probably watched like 20 consecutive Mike Tyson fights, and they totaled like, a minute and 47 seconds because he never let anybody stand for more than 20 seconds. After that, let's see. Yeah, it was a little bit after that George Foreman emerged. I get for the second time. He had those matches against what was the big fight? It was Foreman and oh, good Lord. Who was the best at that point? And Foreman gave him a fight, but who were Foreman's big fights against, like in 1990, 91, in that range? Who am I thinking of? Morrison. Let's see here. George Foreman. Can't believe I'm doing this. George Foreman fight record. Okay. Oh, here we go. Wikipedia will have his lineup of fights. I'm thinking of a couple fights that were on pay-per-view when Foreman was a big deal. Not talking about all the way back to the 70s. I'm talking about the early 90s. So the last time he fought was against Shannon Briggs in 1997. I remember that. But I'm talking before that. We've got okay. Oh, well, I'm sorry for whoever said Tommy Morrison. I was not thinking of Tommy Morrison, but good call. Good call. No, I'm thinking these losses here to Jerry Cooney? Really? He fought Jerry Cooney. Okay. What fights am I thinking of? 89, 88, 89. 88. I'm not recognizing these names. Jimmy Young. Okay. So he was off for 10 years for one thing. Okay. So I'm talking about his comeback. Tim Anderson. I remember that name. Dwight Muhammad. I remember that. Frank Lux. Bert Cooper. Jerry Cooney. Really? That's funny. I don't remember any of these fights. That's who I was trying to think of. I couldn't remember. Last night, I couldn't remember Buster Posey and Hunter Pence tonight. Now, I didn't really give it much thought. I think I would have come up with Evander Holyfield. That's who I was thinking of. Yeah, he's winning all these fights, and then he had to face the champ, Holyfield. And then Tommy Morrison. Okay. But that was his big shot at winning back the heavyweight championship, was against Holyfield. Yeah. And then again, his final fight was against Shannon Briggs. Remember that? In New Jersey. He was 48 years old. I can't imagine. Okay. Did not think we were going to talk about George Foreman, Jerry Cooney, Shannon Briggs, and Evander Holyfield tonight. But we did. All right, folks. Appreciate you being here at the Voice of College Football. A Wednesday means Ohio State Buckeyes live at 11 a.m. I'm going to be on the Bigger 10 this week. So we did the record with the folks over at Michigan Podcast today, but instead of Steve Dace, who is honoring Charlie Kirk and at the memorial in Washington, D.C., it was our friend Aaron, Steve's producer, and it was Steve's son, Noah. It was nice to meet Noah. And so we knocked out the Michigan Podcast today, and then I have been asked to be on the Bigger 10. So that'll be fun. We record that on Wednesday. So be looking out for the Bigger 10 on Michigan Podcast. Again, the Buckeye Show at 11. We've got the Miami Show at 7. Then I'll be back here at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, and we will really start to rev into week 4. See you in the morning.